Hey guys, what's up? TGS here. Finally, it's time for me to analyze the new artifact sets that are coming out in 4.3 for Genshin. I have a pretty crippling cold today. Your boy is messed up, but fortunately I only need about 10% of my total powers to Theorycraft this game. So, two new artifact sets, one being dedicated to healers and the other being dedicated to geo damage. Oh boy. This is not going to be good. The artifact set I had the highest hopes for, without a doubt, is the healing set. With Furina making all healers much more valuable in the game, and with them still lacking a de facto signature set, the rumors about these healing artifacts supposedly giving these healers even more offensive value really had me hyped. And just in theory, the effects of the new artifact set do sound very good. It works like this. The active character will receive a flat damage increase based on the amount of healing the holder has generated throughout a specific window. So, for example, let's say Baijo is holding this artifact set and uses his elemental burst. 6 seconds after the first heal has occurred, the active character will receive a flat damage bonus on all of his hits based on the total amount that has been healed by Baijo in the last 6 seconds. If this reminds you of something, then that means you have good memory. It works very similarly to the Ocean Clam set, with the only difference being that instead of translating all the healing to an instance of fixed physical damage, you're translating it to an instance of flat damage bonus that will adapt to the type of damage of the active character. Specifically, flat damage is something that won't be affected by things like multipliers or attack or elemental mastery, but will be affected by damage bonuses and crit damage, for example. To give another example, Shen-He, the best buffer for cryo units, gives the whole team flat damage bonuses through her elemental skill. In theory, it is great because it is something that scales up higher compared to the Ocean Clam set the more you invest on your units, so the more crit rate, the more damage bonuses, the more crit damage you have on your active units. And that's exactly what initially got me hyped about the new artifact set, because the Ocean Clam, in my opinion, has always been kind of limited in terms of meta, while this could have had a higher upside. But unfortunately, MiHoYo just had to fuck this up. There are two main issues here, a structural one and a technical one. Before I move on, let me remind you all that if you enjoy my work and my Theorycrafting, you can show your support by subscribing and leaving a thumbs up and also following me on Twitter. The structural one comes from how long you need in terms of seconds to build up the buffing. You need 6 seconds in order for the buffs to actually take effect after the first heal has occurred from the holder. If we take into account a typical rotation including a carry, that means that to have these buffs as soon as the carry takes the field, you will need to activate the healing effects at the start of the rotation. Ideally, you have a scenario like this. You use your healer to activate the build-up of the buffing effects, then you switch to your other supports to set up the buffs for the carry, and then after 5 or 6 or 7 seconds you take the field with the actual carry. After the buff is active, you will get 5 instances in total of flat damage increase, which means that your carry will be able to hit the opponents 5 times before the buffs expire. After that, if the healing effects are still active, then the artifact set can restart building up the buffing to potentially give the carry more flat damage bonuses after 6 seconds. That's the reason it's important to use the healing at the start of the rotation for the correct functioning of this artifact set, because unless you're playing with carries that have very long field time like Sino or Xiao, in order to get the buffs from this set 2 times a rotation, you can only do that if you use the healing at the very start. And also if you have healers that have very long uptime with their healing, so for example Baijo or Bennett. My issue with this, and this is very funny, is that it goes in complete contrast with what Furina wants. So Furina, the ones that makes healers good in the first place. With Furina, you specifically want your healers to heal the whole team about midway through the rotation, because that way they'll generate more stacks for her burst. It's also better to not use the healing at the start, for the simple reason that midway through the rotation, you're more likely to find yourself in a situation where you actually need healing to stay alive, while early in the rotation, that's less likely to be the case in my opinion. So overall, I'm pretty puzzled right here, I could say. The second issue is much more simple, and it's that the damage you're getting from this is just not good enough. I'll be very generous here and assume that you're getting 2 instances where you get the full damage bonuses from the artifact set in a single rotation. I want to make it clear that this is a very optimistic scenario. I'd consider it to be the utmost limit of this artifact set. I'm also assuming that the character that will receive the buff is a new millet that has Furina and Kazuha on his team and is also using his signature weapon, so probably the character with the highest counting stats in the game, which will all benefit the artifact set buffs. In total, the artifact set is giving 12,000 flat damage bonus to Nubilet, which will all scale up with the extra damage bonus and crit damage. This converts to a grand total of 90,000 damage increase for Nubilet in this rotation. Man, what a letdown this artifact set is. It's not even that terrible, but it's not even particularly better than the Ocean Clam set, which I'd already consider to be pretty mediocre. It's not good. It's not good at all, man. I'm genuinely very disappointed. It's just not worth farming. I will end this segment by saying that at best it's fun, and at worst it's embarrassing. Surely the artifact set that is buffing Geo units is coming to save us though, right? At the very least, this artifact set is coming as the signature set for Navia, so at least for her it should be very good. I already analyzed it for her in the video I made about her builds, and long story short, it is better than all the other options, excluding if you're using Navia as the carry with Furina on team, where the Marashusei set is slightly better. To be honest, it's not exactly a shame to lose to the Marashusei set, since it's better than most of the signature set in the game for most carries, so it's not a shame. It's actually pretty impressive for this new set to be so close to the Marashusei set for Navia in the ideal scenario for the latter. But how does it fare for other Geo units? Well, it is a set that buffs attack percent with a 2-piece effect, so not great for all the Geo units that scale off defense. Unfortunately, MiHoYo had the very bright idea to make half the Geocast defense scaling, 2 Geo units attack scaling in Ningguang and Navia, and 1 HP percent scaling in Zhongli, so it's just a mess. Makes it all the more silly when the so-called Geo buffer, the perfect Geo buffer Goro, buffs defense, and the most recent Geo DPS Navia scales off attack. Just perfect job, MiHoYo. But yeah, if you were planning to use it on older Geo units for some reason, it's not better on Albedo than the Golden Troop and the Husk set, it's not better on Itto than the Husk set, it's usable on Ningguang since she scales off attack, but its dependency on Crystallites is just not that reliable, so I wouldn't personally recommend it. Although if you're using a strong shielder on the team, somebody like Zhongli for example, that makes the Crystallite shield harder to break, so in that scenario it's more consistent I guess, although still kinda conditional in my opinion. So in my opinion, the only release of artifacts that was as bad as this new artifact release was when we got the Clam set and the Husk set, who coincidentally also happened to be a healer set and a Geo damage set, so yeah. HoYoverse, never cook again.